Hey, welcome back to another episode of Mini Bike Mike's Projects. We today got in the replacement GY6 motor for the Kandi Go Kart, and so we're going to be swapping that out. And yeah, let's get to it. So here is the new motor. It's still wrapped in plastic. One thing I don't like though is these are supposed to ship dry, but it didn't. And now there's oil in this plastic, so I'll have to clean all that up, unfortunately. But other than that, it should be pretty easy swap to take this guy out and put that one in place. The only thing I'm not sure on, that I have no experience with so far, is the external reverse here. So I'll just have to see how that hooks up, and shouldn't be too bad. Should be pretty simple. So I'm gonna start off by taking off this upper cage, I guess you could call it, of the motor. That way it'll be easier to pull the thing out. Alright, after a little closer inspection, it looks like the rear motor mount hanger here and the two motor mounts up here are actually attached to this upper part of the swing arm. So what I'm going to do is drop this down and unhook the chain, come up here, unhook all the gas line, all the electrical connectors like that, and then pull this whole thing out, possibly with the motor attached to it. Or I'll just have to look to see if maybe it's just going to be easier just to drop the motor out of it. But we will address that when we get there. Alright, so I got the motor out of there. A little bit more involved than I thought, but not too bad overall. Only took me about 20 minutes. You see, here it is over here, and it is filthy. So I'm gonna have to take some parts off here, like the rear engine mount you see here. And I think that's about all I really gotta swap over. Oh, the muffler uses the Kickstarter as a mount, so I'll have to take the Kickstarter off the new one and swap that all over. And as you can see here, this is the Kickstarter on the new motor, and they use this shaft here as the mount for the exhaust over there. So yeah, and then the reverse was a bit more involved than I thought. There's a bunch of spacers here that went over the drive axle there, coming out of the back. Make sure to put them all back on the same place, same order. That's the reverse gear there. It's all greased and kind of gross, but got it off there, and now pretty much swap things over. And oh crap, that wasn't supposed to happen. Now get things swapped over and get that new motor in there. Alright, so here's the new motor out of its packaging, and you can see there's oil everywhere, which sucks, but you know, whatever. The go-kart's filthy and needs to be pressure washed anyway, so this will get taken care of at the same time. So what I need to do to get this one prepped, like I mentioned earlier, is take the Kickstarter off so that the muffler can mount to this. And then over here I gotta remove this. This one I purchased is technically for a scooter, not a go-kart, but it was $40 less, so figured I'd make it work. So I gotta pull the brake components for a scooter off of it. And one thing I didn't realize until just a few minutes ago is I believe the axle I have to swap, because if you look at the teeth here, they only go, you know, 1.5 inches, 2 inches out of there. Where on this one, they're much bigger. And that's probably for the reverse. So I'll have to crack open the transmission part back here and swap them out, which is not too hard. I've done it on my Ruckus. I had to switch from the long axle to a short axle. And then move this rear mount over to the new one. And that should be it. Alright, so I got the CVT transmission cover off of the new motor. and I figured I would show you guys how these transmissions work. They're actually pretty cool. So this is the crankshaft right here. So when the motor's running, it's spinning, but it doesn't pull the belt until it gets some centrifugal force. And then there's this part here, which is, I can get it out one-handed, the variator, which you can see inside of it, has these rollers that when the centrifugal force gets enough, they slide out, which then expands these pieces, which then takes this drive face here and pushes it towards the other drive face, which then pinch onto the belt and actually grab it and start spinning it. Then on the back end here, you got your clutch, which it's the same thing where unless there's centrifugal force, nothing's really going on. You got your clutch bell here, which is attached directly to your axle. And then this is your clutch. As it spins faster and faster, there's certain RPMs that these pads will move out, make contact with your clutch bell, thus driving your rear wheel, or wheels in this case. Okay, so it's now the next morning. I forgot to record quite a bit last night just because I'm not used to it yet, so I apologize, but I got the motor swapped out. This is the new one in here. And for the most part, it went fairly smoothly. The one issue I had is once I popped the engine cage or engine mount off of here, got everything rebolted back up with the new motor, these two mounting locations, for some reason, like spread out. And so it was off by ½ an inch once I got one side in, and took some pounding and prying, but eventually got it, and I believe everything is now hooked back up and should be able to try to start it up here shortly. Alright, so we got the motor in and all hooked up. We're going to try to start it now, see if it runs. So here we go. Almost. So if you noticed in the startup video, this thing was pretty loud. One issue I ran into on the install is the old exhaust doesn't line up anymore. So I got the just cut off pipe that was on the trike on there, just so I got some kind of pipe. And I'll have to figure out a solution for exhaust for this guy. The mounting flange on the other exhaust is clocked at a different angle than what this head is. So I have to go with this for now. Here is the old motor out of it. I've already started gutting some of it, but today I'll take it apart the rest of the way. I'm going to save all the bolts and nuts and stuff out of it that I can. Pull off any parts that may be useful as to keep as spares, and then the rest is just going to go in the garbage. Alright, so I started tearing apart this old motor, and I realized what happened. There's supposed to be a chain right here around the cam, but I don't think you probably can't see it on the video, but if you look down in there, I can see a pile of chain just sitting there. So I did notice that when I swapped the piston on this guy, that chain seemed a bit loose. Even the tensioner didn't seem to really be doing much. This guy up here. So it looks like the chain snapped, and once I get this head off here, I'll see if it messed up that piston or not. Alright, so I got a little bit more of this old motor torn apart, and looks that the chain actually didn't snap. It just completely fell off the cam, and it's kind of bound up down there. I can see it's off of the crank. I don't know if you can really see that in the video, but yeah, so you can see here on the piston also, because the timing got thrown off. Come on. Right here, there's a bit of a mark where the valve did impact. And you can see here on the exhaust valve here on top that that's where it hit. So yeah, that's what happened to this motor, is the timing chain got old and stretched and tensioner didn't help, and it just popped right off and kaput. Alright, so here's the haul of extra parts and everything I pulled out of that old motor. We got an extra starter, an axle for scooter if I need it, kickstarter, which I'm going to put on the trike because it didn't have a kickstart. All the gearing and stuff that was in the old motor is sitting over with the trike right now. An extra rear brake lever, tons of bolts, an extra belt that it's for the short case, so it'll only work on the Go Kart, but nice to have an extra. A spark plug, variator, rollers, flywheel and stator, clutch, rockers, camshaft. I was only able to get 3 of the 4 cylinder bolts out, so I'll keep them for now. Got that piston out, and there's the mess left over. So that is just going to get junked. Not much else I can get off of it that would be useful. Alright, so we're about to do our first test drive with the Go Kart. Here we go. Well, she's running and driving, but it's pretty rough. So, got to figure that out.